So anyway, if you guys have just joined us, I am here with Jennifer Bleam from MSP Sales Revolution. And this is part of my new Let's Talk series where I wanted to bring in experts to talk about, as you know, this group is about all of the business side of operating a managed service provider or an IT services business. So I'll go ahead and get started right away because, of course, this will be available later as a recording. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and what you're doing today.
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate you having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun. My husband owns a managed service company. We're right outside of Washington, D.C. And so I helped him with sales and marketing for quite a few years before going over to the dark side. I transferred over to the vendor side and worked for Robin Robbins Technology Marketing Toolkit and helped her get one of her divisions started. We started a Done For You newsletter, Done For You website, and her accelerators club. And it grew very, very quickly for a couple of years until it just became not so much fun for me. And that's when I changed to a cybersecurity vendor and had a blast with them doing sales, marketing. We did the hockey stick growth curve. It was a ton of work, but a ton of fun. And we were then acquired by Continuum, which is now ConnectWise. So loved what I have seen with managed services providers and helping with anything related to sales and marketing. And I am now on my own. I've been out on my own for about 2 years. I work with a small group of MSPs. And I like to say that I help them see catastrophic or disastrous success, which we can probably talk about at some point.
Yeah, I love, kind of that spin on it. And it probably does deserve double clicking on, because one of the questions I get the most is, what is my first hire? Do I hire a technician? Do I hire sales and marketing? Do I hire an admin? And I had the opportunity to talk to you a little bit before this and understand what disastrous means to you and why you use that. But kind of explain it to the group and let them know why you call it that.
Yeah, so I say it's disastrous success. And here's why. The more IT company business owners that I talk to, and I'm typically interfacing directly with the owners, sometimes with their team, what I'm starting to realize over the last year is that often they are holding back on executing on sales and marketing. And part of it is because it's not their natural bent, it's not something they feel like they're good at. But a lot of it is this deep seated uncertainty or even fear that if I onboarded 3 clients next month or 6 clients this quarter, that it would break my operations. And so I'm slow rowing on my sales and marketing because I don't want to stress out ops. And we even hear it in the vendor side, right? Like you sell until ops breaks and then you keep on selling. And so it's a natural part of business. But when you're the owner, the operator, the salesperson, the marketing person, and the technician, it's impossible to do everything. And so you recognize, man, if I sell these clients, if I onboard them, but I can't keep them, what good am I doing? And now I'm damaging my reputation, etc. And so what I help my clients do is help them see so much success on the sales and marketing side that they can afford to bring people in to solve the problems that naturally adding new clients is going to unveil and unleash for them. So that's what I do. All things related to sales, marketing, and then ops, because it's going to stress your operations. It's simply success will stress ops. So that's what I mean by disastrous levels of success.
Right. And it is, at the end of the day, it's a service business. And so you have to keep a level of service that's going to satisfy your clients, or you're going to get that bad reputation. So making sure that you're linking all of it together, your marketing, your sales, all of that funneling into your business operations, it's important to keep an eye on all of it, because that disastrous success can happen. And
Yes.
and I'm sorry if my voice is I'm still getting over that that post IT Nation. I was talking for 5 days, you know,
I am
and
still
then
sipping on my hot beverages for the same reason. It's
yep.
amazing.
So as an MSP business owner, because I can relate, right? I lived it, I did it. I was the technician, marketer, sales, business operations, the whole 9 yards, until I was able to hire people to do that. And it's really important to keep an eye on all of it and have an idea of how each one is going to affect the other. And I think specifically when you're talking about the startup MSP or the small MSP that's just ramping up, it is important to ramp up slowly and get that engine going slowly so that you don't overrun your services and you don't overrun yourself. I mean, you don't want to be out there working 80, 90 hours a week trying to keep up with all the business that you're generating because of your sales and marketing and not be able to hire people. So
Yes.
I imagine, and we won't go into it here, but I imagine the hiring process, making sure that you have that process in place before you start ramping up is extremely important as well.
Yes, and you nailed it. It's really this very complex. Okay, I want to grow, but I don't want to grow too much. But when I grow a little bit, at some point, I'm going to need to add a team member. Who's the right team member to grow or to add as I'm growing? And part of the reason that I love your advice of growing slowly, at least at first, is that it allows you as a new or relatively new business owner to feel your way out and figure out what kind of a business do you want to grow. There are a lot of companies in our industry that give lip service to phenomenal growth. They want a 10x. They want to they all these buzzwords because they think that's the right answer. But as I start to talk to them and we really get at the core of what they really want a lifestyle business. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are companies out there that are running multi-million to usually $2 or $3 million businesses with one or two employees plus themselves, highly profitable, pay themselves very well, and they only need to add one or two clients every year or two to take care of the one or two that they lose. And so their goal is simply to maintain. But if people are acting out of alignment and they think the right answer is 10x growth, but what they really want is a lifestyle business, then they also will never do the sales and marketing because it's heading them in a direction that they don't actually want. And so the slow and steady growth allows you to mature as a business owner and say, do I really want to work 80 hours a week? Do I want a 15 or a 20 person team? And for some people, the answer is yes. But for many people, the answer is no. I don't want to manage a 20-person team. And so that, it then as you're looking at your metrics and as you're in various groups in your community, you've got to be careful because that comparison game can be a trap because you're comparing your dreams, goals, and ambitions to somebody else's, and their world doesn't look like yours. You may only want to work 40 hours a week. You may want to take every Friday off. I have someone that I've worked with that's overseas, and his goal when we first talked and still today is to take a month off in a row. He has a sailboat. He's in Europe. He wants to take a month off. And at the time that we first started chatting, he could literally take 0 days off in a row. And so I said, okay, if we know that your goal is to take a month off in a row, and he wanted to check in every evening just to make sure the world wasn't exploding, I said, you can't go from 0 to 30 instantly. So I said, what I want you to do is take a long weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days in a row, and see what happens and write processes around that. And then you can go from 4 days to 5 days to 6 days to 7 days, and gradually you will get to the month. But you can't go from 0 days in a row to 30 days in a row instantly. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and a couple of things that I want to point out there. Yes, there is kind of that stigma around a lifestyle business, but you know what? This industry is perfect for somebody who wants to just have a lifestyle business. And so, especially in this group, no prejudice against lifestyle business owners, because I think it's an ideal situation for that MSP who wants that type of business and that type of lifestyle. Another thing I want to double click into there just really quickly is processes. The processes are what going to get you the business that you want. So if you want those Fridays off, if you want to be able to take a week off, if you want to be able to take a month off, you have to have the processes in place that enable that. Now,
Yes.
now I want to switch gears because we really wanted to have this conversation about sales. And I think that right now, for most MSPs, the most critical sales conversations that they can be having with their clients is around cybersecurity. So what are some of your views? What are some of your tactics that you're sharing with your clients, your MSP clients right now around cybersecurity sales?
So, a couple of things. So, first of all, I'm typically talking to MSPs, and they typically have anywhere from 40, 50 clients up to sometimes as many as 450 clients. And my advice doesn't vary a whole lot with that type of a client. And what I tell them is that you must have the cybersecurity conversation with your clients. Not only are you underserving them if they don't have your cybersecurity solution, your stack, your policies, procedures, etc. So yes, you're underserving them, and it's a tremendous risk to them, but it's a tremendous risk to the MSP. Because if you called 10% of your client base right now, let's say you have 50 clients and you called 5 of them and you say, hey, let's pretend that tomorrow morning you woke up and you had a ransomware attack. You may need to explain what that means, or the FBI stormed in your office and I was going to say stole all of your data, took all of your data with them because there was a breach or an incident of some type. What would you do? And if you ask them to list their first 5 steps, I guarantee you that one of the first 5 steps is that they're going to call you, because they look at you, the MSP, as all things related to IT, computers, servers, software, cybersecurity. And so if they will call you, they will also blame you if you haven't had that conversation. And post incident, post breach, post ransomware attack, that is not the time to be having the conversation. You need to have the conversation upfront now as soon as possible. And it's really, if you've ever read the book Eat That Frog, it's a really short little book, and the concept is, if you're looking at your day and you have a task that is just looming over you, like for me, it is automations. I don't play nicely with Zapier, or Zapier doesn't play nicely with me. I don't know which one it is, but if I have an automation that I need to work on and I put it off to the very end of the day, what I do psychologically and unconsciously, without me even realizing it, is that every other task I have to do that day, I make it take longer because I'm dreading Zapier. I'm dreading the zap. It's not going to go right. It never goes right the first time. I have to test it 6 different ways. I have more test 73 inside of my Zapier instance. And so, but the concept of eat the frog is, Jennifer, do the stupid Zapier task first and get it out of the way. And so that cybersecurity conversation is often the equivalent of eating the frog. It isn't a fun conversation. It's difficult. You need to explain, this is new. This is not something they're paying for. This is something they absolutely need. It's probably not a budget line item, but believe me, it is easier to have that conversation now than in a year or two when something goes wrong.
Right. And this goes back to something. When I was at IT Nation, I had the opportunity to interview Matt Lee, and he brought up the subject of defensibility. And he uses an analogy here that I think is perfect for our industry, because we are still maturing, right? But there's an industry that is very mature, very professional, and I think is very much like where we need to be headed. And that is your MD, your doctor, who diagnoses you. We do that all the time as MSPs. Mm-hmm. They diagnose you, they prescribe something, and then they expect you to take that prescription, right? Yes. And if you don't take that prescription, even though it's your fault, and the example he uses is, doctor prescribes me blood pressure medicine. I don't take the blood pressure medicine, and I have a heart attack. Who am I going to blame? Now, logical people would blame themselves, right, for not taking the medicine, but there are going to be those who blame the doctor, right?
Yes.
That's what malpractice insurance is for.
That's what humans do. They're never going to blame themselves.
Exactly. But what the doctor has done the whole way is, every time you've gone to see him, he has written you, he's diagnosed you, he's written you a prescription, he's recorded all of this down in your medical chart, so that when it comes down to having to defend, that defensibility that Matt was talking about, he is able to defend what he prescribed for you to do. And
Yes.
and that's the hard conversation that you're talking about, is having these conversations early enough with clients so that you're telling them over and over again, you're getting it into, because you're right, it's not a budget line item until you make it a budget line item. And
Yes.
that's the first conversation that you need to have with them, is this is how this is evolving. This is how I'm protecting my business as a professional services provider. And this is how you need to provide protection for your business. And by the way, this is how much it's going to cost. And the sooner you implement it, the better. And,
I
this
love
kind of
it.
goes
Yeah.
back to QBRs. The reason why
Yes.
you have QBRs is to prepare them for these things. Same
Yes.
conversation.
It is. And my advice to my clients, I have this phrase called stand in your greatness. And that's what I say to them. Stand in your greatness. Like, you are the person that's diagnosing what is wrong. You are the IT company that knows if they don't deploy something new, they are at significant risk. So stand in that. Don't be afraid to make a strong recommendation and to explain to them what is going to happen if they don't take your advice and then the poop hits the fan. Like that's a difficult conversation, but they definitely need to have that conversation. And so I say all the time, stand in your greatness. That's who you are. So be that.
So let's that's kind of the sales conversation that we need to have, right? But let's take that a layer up the funnel to marketing. And what are some of the tactics that you would use with your MSP clients to get them in front of either prospects or existing clients so that they can have this conversation?
Okay, so a couple of things. So as far as tactics, I love webinars and seminars. Webinars and seminars are a fantastic way to um, thought leadership, and I've got work in my house, so I'm hoping you're not picking up background noise. But um, to thought leadership is great. Repurposing that content is great. Engaging with your audience is great. So webinars and seminars are tremendous. And then if you can foresee the arguments, the objections, the concerns that are going to come up in your sales process, overcome those in your marketing process, and then, of course, in your sales process as well. So things like, well, if it happened to me, I don't really think it would matter. I think we would just bounce back. We don't have that much data anyway, which is patently false for 99% of clients, unless they're using paper records and an abacus. We all know that a cyber incident will absolutely impact them. So why not share some of the stories that are in the newspaper, in the media? Interview people that this has happened to. I keep sharing this idea, and I think I'm going to have to kick this up a notch. I will buy coffee for the first MSP that takes this idea. Interview people in your area. You can put them in shadow, you can change their voice, make sure they're not going to be embarrassed or there's no liability issues, but interview them. Like, what did you think the day before your ransomware attack? You just went home, it was business as usual, no big deal. What did you feel when you came in and you saw that screen and you realized, I don't have access to my data, I can't call my clients, I can't bill, I can't deploy my team, I can't create my widget? Like, ask these questions and condense it down into a really powerful 10-minute video. And if you did this once a month for a year, you would have 12 killer videos. And how I would end those videos every single month is, if you had advice to someone who's watching this and thinks that this could never happen to them, what would your advice be? You will get 12 nice little segments that you can bring together into an awesome sales vehicle for you. And those people that have already had the issue are going to become your best sales team. And so it's kind of like if my house was broken into and my friend said, wow, how'd you feel? Did you think you were vulnerable? No, none of us think we're vulnerable until it happens to us. And then we have a world of experience that we would love to share with everybody. And so that's a great way to get the word out that this is happening to business owners just like you in your community. and the very real impact that it has on the business.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things there, video is extremely important because there are so many things that you can do with video content after the fact. Like there's so much that I can just do with this interview after we're done, right? I can cut it up. I could create a podcast out of this. I could create short little 30-second videos that I put on social media. All kinds of different things that I can do with video content, even down to transcribing it and using it as written content for a blog article. And those types of things, if you're not doing video, I strongly suggest that you start doing some video. In fact, I did a little teaser. I am going to be releasing a video, hopefully this week, on what the content kit I believe every person who does video marketing should own as a minimum if they're getting serious about video. Now, to get started. So
you're talking about like cameras and microphones and things like that? Is that the direction?
I am. So this is the kit that I actually put together for Ignite so that when we travel, we have a complete set of cameras, microphones, tripods, all in one case, one of those nice Pelican type cases that you could drop from 30 feet and it's not going to hurt the stuff inside.
Yes.
But I do want to stress that to get started, you don't have to have that.
Yes.
You can pick up your phone and use it to start doing video because the quality of that phone is going to be more than enough to get you started. And the most important thing is starting because if you're not comfortable on camera, then the only way to get comfortable on camera is to start doing it. Even if you throw away most of what you record in the beginning, that's fine. You're going to get better every time you record yourself on video.
Man, my first couple of lives, I would get so excited because I'd see one person's watching me and it was my mother. And I love her. I mean, moms are great. I am one, right? But I'm like, hi, Mom. Thanks for... And of course, I didn't say that. But yes, I mean, it is a little bit intimidating to get on video. But a great way to, as just an impromptu video, is if you walked out of a really good conversation with a client or a prospect and they asked a question and you answered it and you were like in the zone. You were like, man, if I could just bottle that and give that answer every time, life would be better. Go out to your car and be like, hey, this is Jennifer. I'm here in Wichita, Kansas. I just walked out of an attorney that I service and he asked this great question. And I thought you might have that same question. He asked me, blah, blah, blah. And here's what I told him. Hope that helps. Have a great day. Talk to you later. And you end your video. And just those little segments are phenomenal. I mean, I think most people watching this probably know the old people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. Well, what better way to develop that know and that like and that trust than to get on video and to just show who you are? I had a client say that they bought from me because of my quirky videos. And I'm like, I don't think of myself as quirky, but if you thought of me as quirky and that appealed to you, that's fine. And the reality is I may turn some people off with how quirky I am. And that's okay because there's plenty of companies out there. And that's my advice to my clients as well, is just be yourself. Like it's exhausting to be anything other than yourself. So be yourself. You will naturally repel some people, but you're going to attract a whole lot of others.
Exactly. And you don't have to have a lot of followers to do this, right? If you can, because every local area, because let's face it, we're probably talking to smaller MSPs about this kind of stuff. And so there are chambers of commerce who have Facebook groups. There are industries in your area that might have a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group or something like that. Become a member of those and start participating in the conversations, and then not in a spammy way, because that's never going to work. But if you legitimately have an answer, and better yet, if you have that answer on video that you can provide in the comments of a question that somebody posted to one of those groups, so much the better. And if you have that content at the ready, it's going to help you immensely.
And it is surprisingly easy for your prospects to believe that they are seeing you everywhere. If you've got a video and then you repurpose that as a blog, and maybe you later on copy that video to LinkedIn, and you're very clever in how you repurpose that content, people are like, holy cow, how many people do you have on your team? And you're like, it's just me, or I have a part-time marketing person, and it is very doable. My advice is to start small, because my tendency is to make it complicated very quickly. So I try to have the discipline to do something small consistently, and then we amplify it a little bit and a little bit and a little bit more. So yeah, it does take surprisingly little to be kind of that um, ever present person inside of your niche.
Exactly. It really doesn't take a whole lot for you to be that person that stands out.
Right.
I had an interaction recently. I forget what show it was at, but one of the guys from Fortinet came up to me and said, I am seeing you all over my LinkedIn. And I'm like, good, because that's exactly what the purpose of it is.
That's the goal.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. I love it. Yeah. And there's strategy, but we're not talking difficult. Like anybody
Right.
that's listening to this can 100% figure it out. Like I'm not doing any algorithm gaming or anything like that. I'm just making sure I'm posting 3 or 4 times a week, and it's good content and people are engaging on it. And the other thing is, and I think this is important just from a mindset standpoint, you will always have posts that flop, and you will always have posts that are phenomenally successful. And I find it almost impossible to guess which ones are going to be which. And so, because you're sharing so much content, sometimes you'll be like, I thought that was going to be killer. And it got 400 views and exactly 0 likes, comments, shares. And something else that I thought was maybe not going to be as appealing, it absolutely blows up and people love it and people share it. And I'm like, okay, never in a million years would I have predicted which is which. But that's why just getting out there with videos and memes and questions and articles is so important. And it's doable. It's very, very doable.
Yeah. One of the most important things I ever learned about marketing at all is do it consistently, but try things differently. It kind of that old adage, you never step in the same river twice,
Yes.
because it's always changing. That is for marketing. If you don't think that way, eventually you're going to lose,
Mm-hmm.
because what is working today is probably not going to work a year from now, maybe even 6 months from now. And so trying things, but trying them over and over again consistently, making sure that you're doing things. And when you find things that work, double down. And when things
Yes.
start to not work anymore, find something else that does,
Yeah.
because there's always something new that's going to grab people's attention. There's a new technology, there's a new methodology, there's a new, I don't know,
Yeah.
video type of platform, TikTok,
Yeah.
that, and I don't do TikTok. Everybody knows that. It's kind of a funny thing, but it works. I mean, if you're not doing TikTok and you're doing serious, especially consumer marketing, you're missing out on something.
Yes.
And I choose not to do it, but it's definitely something you should be trying if that's your goal.
And
Or,
if that's where your target market is hanging out, right? Because Eric, I would imagine your target market is like me. I don't hang out on TikTok. My son sends me videos and I can watch them without having a TikTok account. I always have concerns about the security side of TikTok. But if you are going after the residential people and you know they're hanging out at TikTok or Instagram, that may not be where I hang out, but I'm not your target market. So make sure that your message may be great, but if it's going out to LinkedIn and you're targeting residential people, most of those people aren't hanging out on LinkedIn. And besides, even if they are, I think it's the average LinkedIn user is on LinkedIn 17 minutes per month. And they're on Facebook hours a day. And so
yep.
you've got to, pay attention to that as well. So, you pick strategically. If you are on limited on time or resources, finances, then maybe you put some significant effort into figuring out TikTok. And candidly, the magic number seems to be 20 hours. I was listening to Gary V talks about 20 hours. There's also a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but his TED Talk is called The First 20 Hours, and it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos. And his point is that while it does take you hundreds of hours, 10,000 hours, I think is the rule of thumb, to be a master, like let's say a master violinist and playing for a symphony orchestra, if your goal is simply to play violin on the weekends for your praise team at your church, then you probably only need about 20 hours. Now you need to be savvy, you need to be smart about what you're learning, but 20 hours seems to be the magic number to be adequate. Now, I don't mean if you're starting a business and you need to be the expert, 20 hours is not enough. But if you're saying, you know what, this quarter, I'm going to figure out TikTok, then the first week of the quarter, for 20 hours, whether that's before work, after work, during your work hours, weekends, you find 20 hours and you start by saying, what are all the things I don't know? Can I target people on TikTok? Do I need to brand my TikTok? Like there's a million questions when you're first getting started. Ask those questions and dig in and spend 20 hours, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or whatever tactic, and become that good enough expert to run with it and play with it for a quarter or two and see if you're happy with the results.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 20-hour rule, because I've heard of that before too, applies very well to marketing, right? Because so many of us, and I know you've seen this as well, we'll send out postcards once. We'll spend 2 or 3 hours to get a set of postcards, a list of addresses, slap them on those postcards, and send them out. I'm sorry, that's not going to do it. Until you've done it for 20 hours, until you've iterated through those postcards a couple of times and sent out enough to make it statistically important, you're not going to see enough success or failure to decide whether or not it's something you should continue or not.
Yeah, and it's that iterative process that makes marketing so hard because people come to me and they want that magic bullet. They want that pill. Like what's the one thing that I should do? And first of all, there's never one thing. Marketing, you need to be doing a lot of different things, and it's probably just on the edge of chaos is when you know you're doing enough. But it has to be iterative. What if your message is falling on the wrong ears? What if the message is great, but it's going to LinkedIn and your people are on TikTok or vice versa? Like it has to be iterative. It can't be once and done. Listen, I wish it was once and done. If I had a once and done answer, I'd spend, I don't know, $100,000 to get the word out to every MSP across the globe, and everybody would adopt it, or 10% of people would adopt it. Those people would get wildly rich, retire, and join me on my island. That's not the way life works. I wish I had a magic pill. It's just there is no magic. It's hard work. It's iterative. It's seeing the long game. That long tail of marketing is so important and so overlooked.
Absolutely. Now, I do see that we've got a couple people watching, so I do want to mention if anybody has any questions for Jennifer, you can please go ahead and put those in the comments, and we'll go ahead and try and answer those for you. But let's talk for just a minute about some of those things that they should be trying right now. We mentioned TikTok, we mentioned video. What are some of the other methodologies, not specific campaigns or anything like that? What are some of the things that they should be trying, and what are some of the results they should be looking for when it comes to their sales and marketing?
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk sales first, and then please pivot me back to marketing. Sales first. Two things you should be looking for. Number one is a documented sales process. Right now, everybody, if you've ever made a sale, you have a process. If you're not happy with that process, it's either not documented or it's not built well, but the process is giving you exactly the results that process was designed to give. So think of it like a recipe. If you throw the wrong ingredients in the bowl and you blend it for 3 minutes, like the recipe card says, but you put in salt because it looks just like sugar, so I'm sure it's the same thing, and your eggs were, I don't know, 6 months past the use by date, but I'm sure that's fine too. And then you didn't have any heavy cream, but you had some instant milk in the pantry, so you just kind of mixed that up and you threw it in, and you decided to microwave it instead of putting it in the oven. You didn't follow the process. So you just created a brand new process, a brand new recipe, and it's going to yield whatever that recipe was. So it's going to yield garbage if that's what you put in. And so it's kind of the whole garbage in, garbage out. And so if you're looking at your sales and you're not closing enough, it's because of your process. I guarantee you it's because of the process. And so that would be one very strategic thing, is to document your process, or get with me and ask me for my process, and I'll share it with you, because it works. It absolutely works. And it's very flow charty. It's very workflowish, because that's the way that I think. It's the way that most of my clients think. So that's on the marketing side. On the sales side, um, referrals get a bad rap. And I think that referrals get a bad rap because sometimes that's the only lead source that you have. But just like Eric, you were saying, if you're finding something that works, put fuel on that fire. I would say the same thing with referrals. So if you're already doing a great job servicing your clients, then study referrals and figure out how you can create a better referral system so you get more of the thing you're already getting. So I know that's more tactical. Is that the direction you wanted to go, or did you want to talk more strategy? Oh, I think you muted.
I did, because I had to go off camera to cough for a second there.
No worries. No worries. I was
So
like,
so
oh, I
yes,
don't know if it's on me or you. Okay, go ahead.
one of the things that I saw happen when I really got serious about sales and marketing in my MSP was building that sales funnel, building that process that said, I need to get X number of prospects or leads into the top of my funnel. I needed to work this number of prospects in these different ways. And once I got them to this level, I needed to, try and schedule meetings. And this is what I said in the meetings. And all of those things, you're absolutely correct. They need to be documented, and it needs to be tracked. You need to know how many people you have in each of those levels at any given time to know whether or not you need to ramp up or maybe even ramp down, as we talked about before, because you don't want to overrun yourself with too many prospects, too many leads, because you can't have an infinite number of meetings and do the service work at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting because it is, whether you look at it as a traditional sales funnel where you're pouring names in the top, and then, now we're in the middle and we're pouring on value, and people sit in the middle of the funnel for, maybe they're instantly ready to make a buying decision, but usually they just sit and they perk. They're like slow cookers. They're not instant pots. They're slow cookers. They're just consuming your content. Maybe they download a lead magnet here and there. Maybe they subscribe to your YouTube channel. They're in your Facebook group, or they follow you on Facebook, and they just kind of hang out, becoming aware of who you are, and you're building that know, like, and trust. And then there needs to be that trigger of, okay, let's have a conversation. You've been in my world long enough. Maybe you don't know what I do. Maybe you do, but you're now ready to make that choice. And so what I see is that there's so many MSPs that aren't pouring in the top. And so one question that I always ask my clients, I want them to know, what is the total addressable market in their area? So how many miles are you willing to drive? If you're in New York City, it might be 2 miles. If you're in Kansas, it might be 22 miles. Like I just, it's going to be different for every company. And then what companies do you want to service? And please don't tell me every company, because it's not. For some of you, you're like, I love the companies that have 7 or less employees. That's great. 22 miles, 7 or less employees. How many of those companies are there? You need to know that number. And maybe you're like, okay, 22 miles, but I only want 50 to 100 employees. Okay, how many companies are there? And I guarantee you, for 99% of the people that are watching, there is a tremendous discrepancy between number of people you could be marketing to and number of people that are actually in your list. Because a lot of IT companies have a list of maybe 300 businesses. but I guarantee you there are more than 300 prospects in your area. So you need to be pouring names in the top of the funnel, because that funnel is actually a sieve. People are going to unsubscribe. They're going to fall out. They're going to go out of business. They're going to hire somebody else. They're going to decide they didn't like you because of your quirky videos. If you're me, whatever the reason is. So you constantly have to be pouring back in the top so that you get people that are falling out the bottom and into your sales funnel. Now you're having a strategic conversation with them. So that's one thing. And that doesn't have to be you. That can be a virtual assistant. That can be someone you hire overseas to source names for you. And now you have to warm the names up. You have to get them to opt in. Perhaps you're targeting them on social media, or inviting them to a Facebook group, or inviting them for coffee or virtual coffee. But who are those people that you're pouring in the top? Because we're so focused on number of leads. How many leads did I get this month? But how many leads did you create? How many potential opportunities did you create? And there's not enough focus on that.
Yep, absolutely. And all of those things are really important things to know. Like, you need to know your ideal customer profile so that you can figure out what your total addressable market is. Because you may need to expand your total addressable market to either include other verticals, a larger area, physical area, whatever it might take to get enough leads in the top of the funnel to make it self-sustaining.
And that target market can change over time. So I think that's the other thing. I talk to MSPs and they're like, well, I really think it's, 10 to 20 employees. But what if I start working with the 10 to 20 employees and I really find out it really needs to be 20 to 100 or 20 to 70? No, you're not marrying your target market. This is not a lifetime commitment. You can shift, you can pivot, you can change your marketing. Now, if you think that might be an eventuality, like I'm not sure exactly what size, then perhaps as you're adding companies to your database, you tag them with what size company they are, so that if your perspective shifts later on, you're able to filter those people out. If you decide you don't want the 7 and unders, perhaps you form a collaborative partnership where you are referring those to someone who loves the 7 and unders, and they refer to you all of the 20 and up. But maybe tag those inside of your database in some way so that you can pull them out later if that's not your ideal target market anymore.
Exactly. And you may pick a size target market, like say I wanted 20 and less. Well, that's going to include a lot of doctor's offices in my area, but I have to be a very specific type of MSP. I have to want to go after that market because there are much more specific requirements in that market if I'm going to address doctor's offices within that type of ideal customer profile.
Yes, so 100% true.
Lots of different things to look at there. We are running up against time. We've had a great conversation. I think we've had a lot of fun. Of course, we have not exhausted this topic in the least, so I'm sure that we will try and do this again, maybe after the first of the year. Jennifer, if people are trying to reach out to you, if they want to improve their sales process and reach out to you directly so that you can work one-on-one with them, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the best way is on my website, mspsalesrevolution.com/smart. And I tell you all about the SMART system. We talked a little bit about sales. The M is marketing. On that landing page, I've got a video that explains exactly what the SMART system is, who it's right for, and if it sounds like it might be a fit, let's hop on a call. You meet with me. I am not high pressure sales. It's either a fit or it's not. And usually we walk out of that 45-minute call with some very concrete action items for you, even if we don't work together. So mspsalesrevolution.com/smart. Would love to chat with anybody.
And I think that's an important point that MSPs should probably think about in their sales process as well. Even if you're in the sales process, it's okay to deliver some value, because if you deliver value before they actually start paying you, they're going to see a lot more out of it and be more inclined to work with you. So I think that's a great idea. And thanks for offering that to the community.
Of course, my sales coach yells at me all the time and tells me I provide too much value. And I say, I disagree with you. I don't think there is such a thing as too much value. So I'm a giver. I love to help wherever I can.
Awesome. Well, it's been great chatting. Hopefully we'll get to do this again. And everybody who's here and will watch this on video later, let me know what you thought about this Let's Talk. Should it become a series on all things MSP? I don't know. I think it's a good idea, but I'm always here to do what you guys want me to do. So let me know down there in the comments. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.